and welcome back to Live in Neverland. Today I have a very fun video. I am going to be sharing with you guys every book that I read in 2024. I'm honestly quite surprised how many books that I read, considering last year I think I only read like 1 or 2 books. So I'm really excited to share. I will say that the books that I will be sharing are only books that I have a physical copy of. There were a couple that I read via audiobook or on Libby, so I won't be sharing those, but I will be sharing every book that I have a physical copy of. So without further ado, let's jump right on into the video. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go in like no particular order because I have like a tub right here sitting next to me that I put all of my books in once I finish reading them. And right now they're kind of in the order in which I finished them. So yeah, we're just gonna grab and go. So the first book I will share is Star Wars Leia, and I have had this on my TBR for a really long time, and I started reading it a couple years ago and then I just never finished it. So I'm really glad I got to finish it. I really enjoyed it. I loved it, and I loved getting to see like this background of Princess Leia before like we meet her in, I believe, like Rogue One and A New Hope. I think this takes place before Rogue One. On the back it says it's set before A New Hope, but after reading it I think it's also set before Rogue One. So there's a romance little subplot in here, which I loved. I thought it was so good. And like by the end of the book, I just like wanted to cry. This book, it's so sad when you think about like the whole Star Wars universe, and then you look and like, and you know what happens in the book, and it's just, it was so good. I can't remember what I rated it. I will put like the stars that I rated it up here somewhere, but yes, so this was one of the books that I finally read, and it was, I don't know how many pages, 409. So yes, and I believe I got this for Christmas a couple years before The Last Jedi came out, or the year that The Last Jedi came out. So that's been a really long time, and I'm finally getting to read it, I finally read it, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that I read it. It was definitely like, at the time I had read a bunch of romance books, so it was really nice to have like this kind of, you know, I guess it's technically sci-fi because Star Wars is sci-fi, but it was nice to have this to read, to kind of like take a break from romance books. So yes, I loved this one. And let's see, the next book I have is The Fill-In Boyfriend by Cassie West. And I really like Cassie West books. I just love her writing style, and I love the stories. I read a couple on audiobook, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of mad that I did, because I love her like books so much that I really wish that I would have read them in you know, like a physical copy. Like one of them I think is my favorite Cassie West book that I read, and I listened to it on audiobook, and I'm so sad because I really wish that I would have read it, but I'll probably get the physical copy to like reread it or something, just because I loved it so much. But this book, you follow a girl named Gia whose boyfriend dumped her in the parking lot of her high school prom. I believe senior year, maybe. I can't remember. I don't think, it doesn't say on the back, but so she finds this boy in the parking lot and convinces him to be her, well, fill-in boyfriend. And you kind of just follow the story up to the point, you know, just going through high school and trying to keep the secret from her friends. And I will say the ending was kind of unexpected in an aspect, but it was a really good book. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I can't really remember, but yes, I'm really glad that I read it, and I really liked it. It was a really good book. And again, I love Cassie West books. Okay, so the next two books I have were from when I was like in elementary school. And these I have just because I really, really wanted to just get them off of my TBR. More so because when I was younger, I really wanted to read them, but I never got the chance to. And I really wanted a like shorter book to read before I went on vacation, so that way I could start a new book and I wasn't in the middle of a book on vacation. So the two books that we have are Sealed with a Secret and Whatever After If the Shoe Fits. So I'll start with this one. So this is basically like a kind of, it's not really a retelling, but it's about Abby and her brother Jonah. That is their names, right? I think. I'm almost positive that's their names. Yeah, Abby and Jonah, as they like navigate the fairy tale world. So like they have this mirror in their basement, and I believe there's a fairy that lives in the basement. I'm not entirely sure, but the fairy like pulls them in to the mirror, and it takes them to different fairy tale worlds. So like there's a bunch of different stories, and I loved this series as a kid. Like I read Fairest of All, which was them traveling into the story of Snow White, Sink or Swim, The Little Mermaid, Bad Hair Day, Rapunzel or Tangled, and Cold as Ice, which was Frozen. And I loved these books. And these are based off of like the stories that like the fairy tales that they go into are based off of like what the Disney movies are based off of, like the original fairy tales. So it's definitely not like the Disney movies, but these were really good when I was younger and I loved them. Now they're not really my, you know, like taste anymore, just because A, I have grown up, and B, it kind of changes the story in a sense, without giving spoilers. So yeah, and yes, I must have like ripped it within like these years of having it, but yes, I am glad that I finally read this book and I know how it ends. I can't remember how many stars I rated it, but yes, I'm glad that I finally got that one done. And now Sealed with a Secret. This is about a little girl named Phoebe who lives in London. This is like a two-part, or I guess this is the second book in the series. The first one was My Secret Guide to Paris, which I loved that book when I was younger, and when I saw that they came out with this one, I had to have this one as well. So you're following a little girl named Phoebe, and she finds this, I can't remember what it was. What did she find? A beautiful antique, and it has a letter written during World War II from a young girl to her sister who'd been evacuated from London. The letter includes a spell for bringing people close together, a list of clues leading all through the city. Each stop along the way adds up to magic. So like her and her sister are fighting, so she uses this kind of spell, I guess. She thinks that it'll bring her and her sister closer together. It's a really cute story. It's definitely like, you know, a younger kid story, but I'm really glad that I finally read this book. And I really, again, I loved the first book in the series. I can't remember how many stars I rated this, but yes, I'm so glad that I read this book. All right, next up, I'm really excited for this one. We have The Cheat Sheet, and I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. I love football romance books, more so because like I love sports, so, and then romance, and just adding them together, perfection. So if you haven't heard of The Cheat Sheet, you're following Bree and her NFL friend Nathan, and they both have feelings for each other, but then they don't want to admit it because they're scared and don't want to ruin their friendship. And it's such a good book. And I think it's a fake dating trope. Yes, it's a fake dating trope. So it's so good. I gave it 5 stars. I love it so much. And like, I don't even know what else I can say about it, just because it's so good. And yes, I love it. And I can't wait to read the second book in the series. It's on my TBR, not on my physical TBR, but it is on my TBR. Hopefully I can read it next year because I really like it. I don't remember who that one follows, but it's somebody from the cheat sheet that it follows, one of his teammates, but I can't remember which one it is. Okay, so I'm really excited about these next couple. So we'll go ahead and start with this one because this one was okay. So this one I found on the bargain table at Books A Million, and I picked it up because they marketed it, did I say that right? Yeah, as like one for the Swifties. And as you can see, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. So we have The Breakup Tour, and I was really excited to read this, and then I got a little nervous to read it because I had started to see some things that it wasn't really the greatest book ever. So I decided to go ahead and read it, and it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. I feel like there were points in the book that every time, like, you knew we were getting close to the end of a chapter because, you know, they would, at the beginning of the chapter, they were so excited, and then you would get towards the end of the chapter, and then, like, miscommunication and stuff like that, and there was just a lot of miscommunication in this book, and there was one time it made me so mad, and I'm just like, just talk to each other, like, come on. And also, you know, like, the ending was really, really, really cute, and I really, really, really liked the ending. So, you know, it's okay. I am glad that I read it. Don't know if I would necessarily go and pick it up again. I did have to skip a couple of pages because although it's not marketed as spicy, there are definitely a couple of scenes in here that are spicy, and that's just not my, like, forte. So I had to skip a couple of pages. So keep in mind, if you are reading this, there are a couple spicy scenes if you don't like spice, but if you like spice, then, you know, I guess it really doesn't matter. But yes, I am glad that I read it, especially as a Swiftie. I definitely saw where they were getting the parallels from just the world of Taylor Swift, like the breakup songs, and then songs that aren't about breakups, and like some of the things that people have said about her over the years. So this is definitely one for the Swifties. Just like it says on the back, like somebody was quoted with saying, this one's for the Swifties. So yeah, I am glad that I read it. Again, I think I gave it 3 stars. I can't remember. But yes. So these next two books are definitely my favorite 2 books of the year by far. So we'll start with this one. So this one is Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren, and I loved this book. Now, as a big Tangled fan, that is my favorite Disney movie of all time, I was very, very nervous about this book, honestly, because while it's a story inspired by Tangled, I was really nervous how the characters and, like, stuff would match up to my favorite characters from Tangled, obviously, Rapunzel and Flynn. So you're following Wren, who has, on the back of the book, it says, Wren has never had an iPhone, Googled the answer to a question, or followed a crush on social media. What has she done? Read a book or 2 or 3, okay, hundreds. Taught herself to paint and built a working wind power system from scratch. So, like, she lives on this farm. She's lived there since she was, like, 3, and you'll find out why in the book. And it's so cute. It's kind of like an enemies to lovers, I guess. But, like, it's like Tangled. It really is. And the guy, his name is Fritz. And I love that they use, like, the first initial of the characters from the movie. So like Ren, Rapunzel, Fritz, Flynn. I love that. I think that's such a cute little detail. It's such a good book. I love it. There were a couple things in here I was not expecting, but it was really good. The ending was really cute, and I really liked how like they made the story of Rapunzel into like a modern day thing, which I think is so interesting because, like, you know, Tangled is, you know, she's stuck in a tower. So I feel like adding that to like a modern day setting, which was like really interesting and really cool, and I loved it. I'm so glad I read it. I gave it 5 stars because I loved it so much, and it was just so cute. And this isn't like a series, a meant to be novel. I think that's the series. I don't know what other books. Oh, here's a couple more of them. What are they? If the Shoe Fits, which I guess Cinderella, By the Book, which I'm assuming is Beauty and the Beast, and Kiss the Girl. Ooh, that one looks good, which is a Little Mermaid, I guess. So yes, loved this book. And I like searched all around the bookstore for that book, and I'm so glad that I found it because I really wanted to read it, and it did not disappoint, that is for sure. Okay, so this is definitely my favorite book of the year, and I'm really excited. I will say I had been putting off reading this book because I was really, really nervous that I had heard so much hype about this book, and I was really nervous that it would not meet my expectations. No, it did. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I love this book so much. It is such a good book. Enough said. Like, it's just perfection. And so basically this follows Liz, who has this crush on this guy who comes back. He had like moved away. They were like childhood best friends in like this group, and he moved away, and she had this huge crush on him, and he moves back, and so she thinks this is like the sign that they're meant to be together. So she enlists the help of her next door neighbor, who is also kind of like her rival in a sense. They fight over a parking spot, which is like really cute. But Wes, her next door neighbor Wes, to try to like help her win over, I can't remember what his name is. Michael, that was his name, Michael. See, that's how much like I just never cared about Michael. Like, I was always like, no, Liz, you're supposed to be with Wes, kind of thing. So like, enough said. I love this book so much. Like, I just never wanted to put it down. Like, there were times where I was like so sad that I had to stop reading because I didn't want to put it down, and I loved it. I gave this 5 stars, 6 stars. It's amazing, and I love this book so much. I feel like I would give anything to go back and read this book again for the very first time because it was that good. Like, I loved it that much. Okay, so the next like group that I have, let's see, we'll start with this one. So we have Conceal, Don't Feel from the A Twisted Tale series, and I really liked it. Again, as we were talking about with the Whatever After books, it's really like, it's a retelling, and like there's a question for each of the books. So like this one is, what if Anna and Elsa never knew each other? Which I think is such an interesting like what if question, because the whole movie is based off of like sisters, and Elsa like wanting to conceal her powers so she doesn't hurt anybody because she hurt Anna when she was little. So it's so interesting. And while with like retellings, or like, I guess it isn't really a retelling, like the A Twisted Tale is supposed to kind of like change the book from like the original. This one did stay like kind of like close to the original, which I really liked, because the original Frozen meant so much to me, and I loved that story so much, and I still do. Still one of my favorite movies. It's like my top 3 movies of all time. Disney movies, of course, along with Tangled, Peter Pan, and Peter Pan. So I loved this book, and I gave it 5 stars. It was such an interesting concept to like dive into, and I'm really glad that I got to read this book. It's so good. And I guess I'll go ahead and do this other twisted tale. So this next one is Straight On Till Morning, and the what if question is, what if Wendy first traveled to Neverland with Captain Hook? This is such an interesting like concept, because basically Wendy has Peter Pan's shadow, kind of like the original. She like dreams of going to Neverland, which who doesn't? And basically I can't remember if she tries to find Captain Hook, or like maybe like I don't know if he like came to Neverland. I'm not entirely sure. I can't really remember. But she ends up going to Neverland with Captain Hook and realizes that the plan that he has for Peter Pan's shadow is not really what she was thinking it was going to be. So yeah, and I'm a big Peter Pan fan. I love Peter Pan and the Lost Boys so much. Like, they're like my favorite thing ever. So this one really just followed Wendy and Tinkerbell. You didn't really see much of Peter Pan until like the second half of the book. Well, not even that, like the last 2/3 of the book. And like, it was kind of sad because he didn't really act like himself. Which I guess that's what happens when you don't have your shadow. But also, like, the Lost Boys, you only got the Lost Boys for like a little bit. And I guess that's what I loved about the original, is it's Peter Pan and Tinkerbell and the Lost Boys, and then the Darling Children, which John and Michael weren't really in this either. And like some of the things, it just felt like it dragged on forever. Like, this is like a big book. Let's see, how many pages? 488. So this really like follows like a friendship storyline for Wendy and Tinkerbell, because we all know in the original, Tinkerbell is not really fond of Wendy. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars, probably mostly because it's Peter Pan and Neverland, and yeah, it was okay. It's not my favorite book. Probably wouldn't pick it up again, so. I am glad that I read it though, because I thought it would be really, really interesting, and yes, I'm glad that I actually read it. I guess I have one more Twisted Tale series. I have a couple more on my TBR. But so the first whatever book that I read, a friend actually got me at their school book fair. So the first one is As Old as Time, What If Belle's Mother Cursed the Beast? And this was so interesting. I loved it so much. Like, at the very beginning, you kind of get like a back and forth. So like, you have the idea of Belle's mother is the enchantress who cursed the beast when he was a boy, and which we all like, you know, the original Beauty and the Beast story. And it's so interesting. And I remember when I first started the book, I like squealed, because the very first page, the very first line is, "Once upon a time in a faraway land, a young prince lived in a shining castle. Although he had everything his heart desired, the prince was spoiled, selfish, and unkind," which is like the opening of the original Beauty and the Beast, which I love, because you're kind of like diving into that story, and it gets you like ready for that story. It is a very interesting concept, and I'm so happy that I read it. I can't remember how many stars I rated it. I read this like in August, and it's December, 16th, the day that I'm filming this. So it's been a while, but I really enjoyed it. And Gaston is just as annoying in here as he is in the movies. But yeah, and just, like, there were parts of it that I'm like, oh my word. So I feel like if I'm doing that in a book, they're doing something right. So yes, I am so glad that I read that book. All right, another one that I read, this has been on my TBR probably since 2015, 16. And I've started it and I could never finish it. So while I was waiting for an order of books to come in, I decided I was going to finish it because it is only 216 pages. So it should not have taken me that long to finish this book. But we have Before the Awakening, and this is a story about, so the back of it says, before they banded together to battle the evil First Order, Ray, Poe, and Finn led very different lives. Ray was a lonely scavenger on the desert planet Jakku. Poe was a hotshot pilot for the Republic, and Finn was just FN-2187, a promising but weary stormtrooper. These are their stories. This is what happened before the Awakening. So this takes place before The Force Awakens, and before we... Oh, I have a bookmark in here. That's fun. So it was... I don't remember what it was. It felt very slow, more so because I think, unlike the Leia one, this one, like, I knew what their lives were like, in a sense of, I thought their lives were more interesting. Basically, Finn, I honestly don't even remember what we were following him through. Rey, I believe we were following her through, like, fixing up a ship or something, and then, like, I don't remember. I don't know if she was trying to escape or sell it. I can't really remember. And then Poe, we follow him on, I believe, like, a mission, and then meeting Princess Leia and him joining the Resistance. So it is interesting to, like, see these stories. Definitely not my favorite book that I read, but I am glad that I finally read it. And yes, I did, honestly, again, I don't remember what I rated them. This was like back in August of some sorts, or like end of July or something like that. So yes, but I am glad that I finally read it because now it is off of my TBR and I know what happens. So another book, this one I started like in 2021, but it was one that I kind of just had to take really slow. And it was the Disney Story. And basically you just go through every little aspect of the Disney like company, like their story. So like you start all the way like with the creation of Mickey Mouse, November 18th, 1928, and you go all the way, I believe, is it the creation of like Hong Kong Disneyland or like Shanghai Disneyland? I can't remember. Shanghai Disneyland. And then you've got like a bunch of dates, like important dates, and it goes all the way up to Finding Dory being released. So it's a good book, and I really liked it. It was super interesting to hear the different things going on, and like some things you like never knew about the company or like your favorite movies. And so it was really interesting to read, and I did finally read it and finish reading it, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It's incredible. It's as a big Disney fan, this is definitely a book to read, and I love that book so much. Okay, these are definitely, I will never not give this series 5 stars. This is my favorite series that I have ever read and probably will ever read. We have the 5th and 6th book in the Kingdom Keepers series. We'll start with this one. So this one I was reading while on my cruise in, I believe, what was that? It was July, end of June, July. And I never wanted to put this down. Like, I could not wait to get back to the room and read, like, after we had finished dinner or the shows. Like, I never wanted to put this book down, and I just sat there and I read forever. And I will say this one felt a little slow. It definitely felt like a setup for this book. It was really good, though. I love this series. I believe this one, they're like at the beginning, they're at like Typhoon Lagoon, and then they go on, I don't remember what ship. One of the Disney cruise ships. I can't remember. Disney Dream, that's the one it is. I believe that's the one that has Sorcerer Mickey on the back. I think. I don't remember. But yes, I love this series. I gave it 5 stars. So good. And again, the 6th book, this one, they are still on the Disney Dream. And I don't know if this one they were at Castaway Cay or if this is the one they were in Mexico, I think. But this book picks up immediately where this book left off, like literally the exact same scene, which is crazy because when that one ended, I went straight to this one and I'm like, okay, what happens? And it's so good. And I cried at the end of this book. I cried, which that meant it was so good. And like I accidentally spoiled it for myself, so like I knew what was coming and I could just feel it in my gut. I'm like, no, I don't want this to happen. And I cried when it did. So I'm really sad about that. And the last book in the original Kingdom Keeper series, because they Ridley Pearson like rewrote it to kind of reflect what the new parks, like the new lands, like Toy Story Land, Pandora, that kind of stuff, to reflect, you know, the changes in the parks. So I'm really intrigued to read that. I have the first book in the series, but I'm really nervous because I love this series so much that I don't want those books to like that part to like change my view of it or whatever. So I have the last book in this series on my TBR, and like part of me just doesn't want to read it because like I don't want the series to be over, but then I also want to know how it ends. So it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. But okay, so the last few books that I have, 2 were in a series, and then this one, I believe this one I read in like August. So it's been a long time. But I did read it then. And it was It's Your Universe by Ashley Eckstein. I had started this a couple years ago and I really wanted to just finish it. And I love all the little like illustrations in the book, which was so fun, and it kept me intrigued, and it was a lot of fun and I loved reading it. It was a good book. And then these 2, I'm going to start with the second book, which is probably not what I should do, but we have rule number 2, you can't crush on your sworn enemy. I love this series. It's so good. So this, you're following a girl. What was her name? I can't remember her name. Well, you're following this girl and her sworn enemy, Cade, and she is tasked with helping him stay on track. And, you know, it's kind of funny. You know, it's a good enemies to lovers. It's really good. I can't remember what I rated. I think I gave it 4 stars, 3 or 4 stars. I can't remember. It's okay. It was good. I loved it. I finished it in like 2 days, but you know, would I pick it up again? Maybe, but that's a strong maybe. Because this is also one of my favorite books that I read this year. Rule number 1, you can't date the coach's daughter. I love this book. Like, it took me 3 days to finish it only because I didn't want it to end. It was so good. Now, the pacing was a little strange, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I don't really care because, again, football romances, my favorite. I love them so much. And just, like, look at the cover. Like, isn't that just beautiful? Like, I love it so much. And I was so happy that I read it. And, again, I love it. I gave it 5 stars. So good. So, yes. Whew. Physical copies of books, that is 20 books this year, starting from like the end of June. That's crazy, considering I read like 2 books last year. That's insane. Like I can't even believe that. That's amazing. And then like I listened to several audiobooks over the year. So this is incredible. Like I can't believe that. Wow, that's crazy. thank you guys so much for watching this video. I loved getting to go through all of these books. Sorry that it was a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. Just once I started talking about the books, I could not stop, obviously. So, yeah, but if you guys haven't already, make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you guys want to follow along on more adventures, you guys can come follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is live_in_neverland if you guys want to come follow along for more adventures. And I will see you guys in my next video.